Jake Parker had been driving for 3 days straight when he finally saw the old farmhouse sitting at the end of a long dirt road surrounded by overgrown fields and twisted oak trees that looked like they had been there for centuries. The realtor had called it a steal, and Jake could see why, because the paint was peeling. The shutters hung crooked and the whole place looked like nobody had lived there in decades. But he needed somewhere quiet, somewhere far from the city, and the memories that haunted him there, so he signed the papers without asking too many questions. He pulled his truck up to the porch and stepped out into the cool evening air, and that was when he noticed the smell. Something sweet and unfamiliar, like flowers he had never encountered before, mixed with something else, something that made his skin prickle with awareness. Jake grabbed his bags and pushed open the front door, which creaked loudly in protest, and inside, everything was covered in dust and cobwebs. But beneath all that, he could see beautiful old furniture, hand-carved wooden chairs, a stone fireplace, and windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. He spent the first hour cleaning, making the place barely livable, and as the sun set, he built a fire in the fireplace and sat down with a can of soup heated over the flames. And for the first time in months, he felt something close to peace. That was when he heard it, a soft sound like wind chimes. But there was no wind, and he had not seen any chimes outside. Jake stood up slowly and walked toward the sound, which seemed to be coming from upstairs, and as he climbed the old wooden steps, each one groaning under his weight, the sound grew louder, more melodic, almost like singing. At the top of the stairs, he found 3 doors all closed, and the sound was coming from behind the middle one, and he reached for the handle, his heart pounding, and pushed it open. The room was empty, or at least it appeared to be at first. But then the air began to shimmer like heat rising from summer pavement, and 3 figures materialized before his eyes. They were tall, taller than any human, with skin that seemed to shift colors in the firelight, from deep blue to violet, to something that looked like starlight itself, and their eyes were large and luminous without pupils, just pools of silver that seemed to look straight through him. Jake stumbled backward, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing, and one of them stepped forward, moving, with a grace that seemed almost liquid. She spoke, and though her mouth moved, the words seemed to form directly in his mind, calm and clear. "We did not expect anyone to come here," she said, and her mental voice carried a weight of sadness and something else, something that felt like loneliness. Jake found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "What are you?" The being tilted her head in a gesture that was almost human. "And we are Villarni, and this place has been our sanctuary for longer than your species has had written language." Another one stepped forward, smaller than the first, with markings that glowed faintly on her arms, and she spoke as well. Her mental voice, younger, more curious. "We came to your world many generations ago," she said, "and we were explorers, scientists studying your planet before your kind had built cities or tamed fire, and we were supposed to leave. But our ship was damaged in a storm, and we crashed in these woods." The third one remained in the background, watching Jake with an intensity that made him uncomfortable, and the first being noticed his unease and made a gesture that seemed meant to be reassuring. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and this is Mira, and the one watching you so carefully is Kendra, and we mean you no harm human. And we have lived in this house hidden from your kind for thousands of your years." Jake felt his legs go weak, and he sat down hard on the dusty floor, his back against the wall, and his mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. "You have been here for thousands of years," he said, "and in this house." Lyra nodded, a very human gesture, "and the house was not always here," she said, "and we built a shelter first, just a simple structure to protect us from the elements, and over the centuries we watched as humans began to settle nearby, and we hid ourselves using our technology to remain invisible to your eyes. But we could not leave," she continued, "and our ship was beyond repair, and our people had moved on, believing us lost, and so we stayed, and we watched your species grow and change and build, and we made this our home." Mira stepped closer, her luminous eyes fixed on Jake. "And we have seen so much," she said, "and wars and peace and love and hatred, and we have watched humans destroy and create in equal measure. And sometimes we wondered if we should reveal ourselves, but we feared what would happen." Kendra finally spoke, her mental voice colder, more guarded. "And now you are here," she said, "and you have claimed our home as your own, And what will you do, human, and will you expose us, and will you bring others, and will you take from us the only sanctuary we have left? Jake looked at each of them in turn, and he saw in their strange, beautiful faces something he recognized because he saw it in the mirror every morning since the accident that took his family and loss and grief and the desperate need for a place to belong. He took a deep breath, and I did not know, he said, and I did not know anyone was here. And I am sorry. But I am not going to hurt you, and I am not going to tell anyone. Lyra studied him for a long moment. And why not? She asked. And why would you protect us? Jake laughed a bitter sound. And because I know what it is like to lose everything, he said. And because I know what it is like to need a place where nobody can find you. And because I am tired of being alone. And maybe you are too. The three beings looked at each other, and something passed between them. Some form of communication. He could not hear, and then Lyra nodded. We will share this space, she said, and you may live here as you intended, and we will remain hidden as we have always been, and perhaps this arrangement will benefit us both. And so began the strangest living situation Jake could have imagined, and during the day he worked on repairing the farmhouse, fixing the roof, patching the walls, painting the shutters, and at night the Villarni would emerge from their hidden state, and they would talk, Lyra told him, about their world, a place of vast oceans and floating cities where the sun never fully set. And Mira showed him images projected from a device on her wrist, pictures of alien landscapes and creatures that defied description, and even Kendra slowly began to warm to him, sharing stories of the early days of humanity, when they first crashed. Jake told them about his life, about his wife and daughter, who died in a car accident, about how he could not stay in the city anymore, surrounded by memories, and about how he hoped this place would help him heal. Months passed and the farmhouse transformed under Jake's care, and he planted a garden with Mira help, who knew more about earth plants than any botanist he had ever met. And he built a workshop, where he crafted furniture using techniques Lyra taught him. Techniques no human had ever seen. Kendra began to trust him enough to show him their technology devices that could manipulate light and sound machines, that could purify water and generate power from the air itself. And she made him promise never to replicate them, never to share them with the outside world. One evening, as they sat together by the fireplace, Jake asked the question that had been nagging at him for weeks. Do you ever regret it, he asked, in staying here instead of trying to find a way home? Lyra was quiet for a long time, staring into the flames, and every day she finally said, but this is our home now, and we have been here longer than we lived on our birth world, and perhaps some journeys are not meant to end where they began. Winter came, and with it snow that blanketed the farmhouse in white, and Jake kept the fires burning, and the Villarni stayed close, and they shared stories and laughter and silence. And slowly the house stopped feeling like a refuge and started feeling like a home one night. Mira asked him if he was still sad, and Jake thought about it, really thought about it. Yes, he said, and I am still sad, and I think I will always carry that sadness, but I am not alone anymore, and neither are you. Kendra, who rarely showed emotion, placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch cool and strange. And you are a good human, she said, and better than most we have observed. As spring arrived, Jake realized something important, and the Villarni had given him more than shelter, and they had given him purpose and someone to care for, and someone to care for him. And in their own way, they had become his family. He stood on the porch one morning, watching the sun rise over the fields, and Lyra joined him, materializing beside him like a ghost made solid. Thank you, she said, and for not running, and for not telling, and for sharing this place with us. Jake smiled, and thank you, he said, and for letting me stay, and for trusting me, and for reminding me that home is not a place, and it is the people you share it with. And there, in that forgotten farmhouse hidden from the world, 3 ancient aliens and 1 broken human built something together, and they built a family, and that was worth more than all the technology or knowledge in the universe. The farmhouse still stands at the end of that long dirt road, and to anyone passing by, it looks like just another old building slowly being reclaimed by nature, but inside something extraordinary lives, and something that proves that sometimes the most important discoveries are not made in laboratories or spaceships, and they are made in the quiet moments between beings who choose to see past their differences and find common ground. And Jake Parker, who came to that place looking for solitude, found instead something far more valuable. And he found belonging, and he found purpose, and he found